Do you like your dolls au naturel? Hi there, welcome to the Teeny Tinkers channel. I make ball jointed doll and craft related content. And also, I sometimes make tutorials for things like face-ups, wigs, outfits, and more. Today I'm going to be showing you all how I do my natural style face-ups, including what brushes I use, what colors I use, the order in which I do things, and everything else you might need to know to hopefully be able to recreate this style of face-up on your own. Okay, first off, you don't need this many pan pastels, but I'm going to show you what colors I'm going to be using and why. And for reference, this is the resin tone of the doll we're going to be working on today. This is a 3D printed doll, and she is in a peachy color. Different resin tones will require different colors, but for this video, we're going to be doing a natural face-up on a peachy colored doll. After spraying the head at least twice with Mr. Super Clear Matte, ideally the UV cut one, your doll's face should be grippy enough for a face-up. You can do more than twice, you can do 3 or 4, but I find 2 generally works as long as you give them ample time to cure. So for this color of resin, the colors I'm going to use are a very broken cornflower blue pan pastel, a true red, a pale buttery yellow, a lighter peach than the doll for blending, white for highlighting or lightening colors, a soft lilac, an orange, and a soft pink. As well, I do have my stack of kind of skin tone contour colors. So we have a peach that's a little closer to the original skin tone, a medium brown, an orangey brown, and a dark brown. If you have a black, I would also grab that. I don't actually have a black pan pastel, go figure, so I'm going to have to use other materials for my blacks. So we are going to need some brushes. I like to use flat pointed eyeshadow brushes for some of the colors like purple, yellow, blue, and some of the browns. These really help with contouring and getting into small crevices and only putting small controlled amounts of color. I also like to use some flat round brushes like these. These are really great for packing in color. And with these, you can get a lot of color added at once. You'll also want some fluffy brushes, including a super duper clean, super duper dry, really big fluffy brush for getting any excess powder off. Because when you spray your Mr. Super Clear, if there's extra powder, it can end up looking chunky or streaky and gross. Finally, I like to have an assortment of Q-tips. I have some of these really, really itty bitty ones like this. And then I've got some larger ones. They are angled. You can use the round ones, those are fine too, but I prefer these angled ones. I find they really help me get the shapes I want. I'm also going to recommend having an eraser. You can have one like this. However, for pastels, I do prefer to use small pieces of magic eraser and a little bit of water if needed, though if you have to use water, let the piece dry all the way before continuing. We're going to start with the underpainting, which means the skin tones can go. I like to go from lightest color to darkest, so we're going to start with the yellows. We have a kind of greener-ish yellow, and then we have like a warmer orange yellow. And I'm going to grab the cooler yellow first, and I'm going to apply it to the corner of the eyelid here. And I'm just tapping it on. It will all be blended out after, don't worry. And then kind of the outside of the eyelid, the corner of the eyebrow, and kind of the top of the eyebrow. And then of course again on the other side. We're also going to put some on the tip of the nose. That's because this yellow acts as a highlight. I'm going to add a little bit to the top of the Cupid's bow. And right underneath, like directly underneath the lip, I also like to add a little bit on the ear here. I'm going to switch to a Q-tip for my oranger yellow. And I'm just going to pat a little bit into the center of pretty much all the spots I just put it, except for on the eyelids where I want to keep it nice and light, and for on the top of the nose. So I'm going to put some under the lip, a little bit on the top of the lip, so she looks like this. And then we're going to grab that fluffy brush. And it's pretty much gone, but it's a little bit there. That's the whole point, is to build it up nice and slow. That's what's going to make it look natural. Next, we're going to do some blues and purples. I'm going to grab one of my flat round brushes, and I'm going to start with this cornflower blue color, just kind of picking up some of that, making sure there's not chunks, and this is going to go under the eyes. He's a little tired. Again, just kind of dabbing it on. I like to add a little bit to the side of the nose. Get some on the corner, like the point of the brush here, because we're going to drop that under the yellow, under her lip. You can also add a little bit of this blue, kind of in the middle of the eyelid, but kind of leaning it towards the top of the crease. I'm going to add a little bit of blue in the top of the ear, but just along the raised, I don't know what this part is called, but the like raised bit in the middle of your ear. Leave that to the side. We're going to take our purple, and I'm going to grab a Q-tip for this part. You can see I already used this one in some purple. Now I grabbed just a little bit, and this is a very light lavender, and I'm just going to go where I hit that blue here, and I'm just going to kind of carry that up a little bit. I'm going to carry it down a little bit down the sides of the nose. I'm also going to drop a little bit on the side to create a bit of a shadow, or like what I can blend into a shadow, because obviously it's hard to make a shadow when the pastel is a little bit lighter than the actual resin. And I'm just going to drop a little bit of purple right on top of that blue, and a little bit just behind the jawline. I'm going to put a little tiny bit on the temples. Again, it looks like we're doing very little, but it does make a difference in the end result. Okay, on to pinks. I'm going to grab that baby pink, and this is like one of these like slightly pointed, like this. Also, I've got a bit of pastel on my finger. So I'm going to just kind of try and get that mostly just on the point. And this is going to go on the brow, the middle of the bridge of the nose, like between the eyes here, the bottom part of the nose under that yellow, over the whole, like all of the lips, chin, and then I like to add mine to the top of the ears as well. Remember, just kind of dabbing it on. And we're going to add a little bit of this to the eyelid, but we're trying to kind of keep it into the waterline. We're going to do that on the top and the bottom. And you're going to kind of press it into the corner of the eyes as well. Finally, a fluffy brush like this. And we're just going to pick up a little bit of that pink and just brush a little bit on the cheeks. If you like the over blushed look, you can add a little bit to the forehead. I'm going to add a tiny bit to my forehead this time, but if you're going for a natural look, I wouldn't go any darker than this. And the big brush, and we're going to blend it out. It's looking like not very much has happened, but you can kind of see a little bit of a glow of life starting to happen. I'm going to grab a flat brush, and I'm going to grab my lightest brown. In my case, it's like this slightly orangey brown. And you're going to go so light-handed here, but you're going to just pick some up, tap off the extra, and just follow the lines of the nose, just barely touching it on there. You're going to get some up into the ear just a little bit, corners of the mouth if you can manage, just a tap. And then if you like the cheekbones, you can chisel these out as much as you want. I'm just putting a little tiny bit that I can blend out. Just make sure when you're blending this part, you kind of come, small fluffy brush, up like this. You don't want to pull that down. Kind of like when you're doing, if you do contour makeup on yourself, you want to bring it kind of following the cheekbone and then up along the temple. Finally, I'm going to grab a little bit of white, the smallest amount, just like we did with the brown. And you're just going to tap that into highlight areas. So that's going to be, again, corners of the brow, very tip of the nose, maybe the middle of the chin, and kind of the top of the cheeks. Big fluffy brush. That is our first layer, so I'm going to go spray this with Mr. Super Clear Matte Medium. Now, make sure you're spraying at least like this far away or your face is going to end up shiny, but we'll be back and start working on building some of this color up and some of the lines. Here she is, all sealed up. So we're going to basically just deepen the colors this layer, but we're also going to start some of the lines. Now for the lines, I'm going to be using watercolor pencil. I really like Derwent Inktense, and that's what I use most of the time, and that is what I'm using this time. But you can use Faber-Castell or anything like that if that is your... Okay, so I have my natural tones in here, and that's what I use for like basic face-up lines and stuff most often. So I'm going to be getting kind of a medium brown. This is Willow. This is the shade Willow. I need a black. So this is the ink black color. You can tell I use this one a lot. Another very used pencil is Bark. And finally, a chili red. Also, make sure you have a sharpener because you want your pencils sharp. I'm gonna start with the red. This is a little trick I learned from Jackie O. Draw in your lines in red first, and I really like the way it looks, so now I do it all the time. Starting off with the lips, I'm just going to line out super lightly, crease of the lips. It doesn't look perfect, obviously. It is a watercolor pencil, so we're going to basically turn it into paint after, so don't worry if it's not absolutely perfect. I'm going to take this red and I'm just going to line out a little bit under the eye, crease of the eye, and we're going to put some basic brow lines in. Draw in a couple of the eyebrow hairs around the edges of the nose. That's a little dark, but that's okay, we'll lighten it up. I'm going to deepen the red to accentuate that she's smiling. And I like to do them at this stage because if you do them here, then the pastels will soften and blend them out. So that's kind of where that looks right now. I'm going to grab one of my itty bitty paintbrushes. This is a NIC Pro, and you're also going to need a little bit of water. Make sure you're not going to be dripping all over the place. And then just super lightly go over your line. My tip is to first go over the spots that you want to be the darkest while your brush is the most wet, because it's going to kind of make them a little brighter. So for me, that's like the liner, the lids, the lip crease, and then the brows. I just kind of blend into the brow shape because we don't need individual hairs to be red. You also want to make sure you're moving, like blending your brows from the inside to the outside so that it's darker on the outer corners. Let that dry because you don't want to add pastels on top of this while it's still wet. We are dry and ready to go for a little more blushing. So I'm going to build up some reds first. So I'm going to grab my little pointed rounded one, and I'm going to grab that red, and we're just going to, again, dab it on, and I'm going to press that into the middle of her lips and into the corners of her eyes, and also a little bit on the edge of the ear, the bottom of the nose, but just like a dot. I'm going to put a little more yellow, but I'm going to use a little bit of orange this. So grabbing that Q-tip, and I'm putting it basically in the same spots we already put it. So there, top of the nose, some right here too. Kind of lift the cheekbone, and I'm going to put a little bit of orange kind of in the middle, except for on the top of the nose. We're not going to put any there because it's like a really highlighted spot. And then I'm going to grab my pink, and using my same brush that had some of the red on it, because I don't mind if we get it a little bit darker, I'm going to put some more pink to the lid here, brow, some of the nose, lower eyelid, around the outside of the mouth a little bit, chin, ear, forehead, and we're gonna blend that. See it coming together a little bit. I'm gonna knock a little tiny bit of a darker pink, so I've got this like magenta color, and I'm just gonna put a smidge of that on the lip, between the brows, some of the nose, ear, and again some of the red, and I'm just gonna put it back, like really put it back into those spots, like the corners, because I don't want to lose that like punch of red. Again, the point is to build the colors slowly. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue back in as well, just in the same spot under the eyes, and then in the corners here, sides of the nose, and then just under the lip, and on the inside of the ear. Okay, and we're gonna grab that brown again, and again so lightly, tiny bit of contour bones, and blend that up. Remember, follow the cheekbones up, and around the eyes you're gonna follow the curves of the face more than anything. If you make it a little bit too dark like I just did, grab a fluffy brush and a little bit of that peach color that's the same or very similar to your skin tone, and just put a little bit along the edge where it kind of bled over, smooth it out. Okay, that's the second layer. We're gonna go ahead and seal this in before we come back in and start adding a little more to this. All right, here she is back from curing. So now we're going to start adding a bit more detail in and darkening up some of these lines. So first off, we're going to grab that bark colored pencil, and just make sure it's like super sharp, especially if it's a tiny little head like this. This is a 1/6 scale mature head, so it's very little. And I'm just going to add some lines in, kind of over top of the red, and not like edge to edge with the red. That way I can kind of blend it out. More like that. And then same thing with the eyeliner lines. All right, at this point I've got to sharpen it again already. Like, you need to keep it so sharp for these little itty bitty lines. I'm also going to put a second just above the eye, like over the eyelid, like a second crease. I like to turn heads upside down to do lashes. It's so much easier. And I'm just going to draw in little clusters and they get kind of shorter towards the middle. And I'm going to add a couple eyebrow lines. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 up, and then same on this side. Kind of like a short one at the start. 1, 2, 3 up. And then I like to go 1, 2, 3 leaning. Same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3 leaning. But also remember that the amount of hairs will change based on like the size of the head and stuff. And then I come down from the top here. 1, 2, 3 down. I did know this. I did not start this high here, so I'm just gonna add a little bit to the top here, and then also like an extra hair here to kind of blend it so there's not like a bald spot. I'm gonna use this brown in the crease of the mouth, and add a little bit to the corners of the eye, like the crease corners of the eye. Just wetting my paintbrush, and I'm just gonna go over those lines to kind of activate the paint. Really keep it like as dry wet as possible. I'm not going to do that on the lashes or the brows though. I'm not blending those out. This is more so just for like the creases and the eyeliner. Yeah, if you blend out the brows and the lashes, like those are individual hairs, it's not gonna look good. So I'm also going to just kind of define out around the nose too. And I'm just touching the wet, like the barely wet tip onto my pencil, just so I can pick up like a smidge of color and darken out the nostrils. You definitely don't want those to go too dark though. All right, that's kind of where we're sitting with this. I'm going to grab a couple different pencils now. I've got a white, I've got my red, and I've got a lighter brown. This is called Baked Earth. It's like and I'm just going to kind of really focus on the edges of my lines where it's maybe starting off a little dark, and I'm going to use this Baked Earth on top of it just to kind of soften the line out, or to extend the line a little. I'm also going to grab a clean Q-tip and a little bit of water, the edges of the mouth, like where the brown was coming down like a little bit too low onto the lip. Also where I have made a little bit of a brown. Again, let's let this dry for a second, and then we can add a little more blush to it. Okay, and then we're just going to sharpen the white pencil. So my highlights are going to go inner corner, and draw so light, like a little bit goes a long way. You don't need a lot of this, okay? Cupid's bow. I'm going to put a line of this under each of the little under eye lines I've given her. But this next bit, which is like shiny lashes, so it's just a couple lashes in between a couple of your dark ones, and I'm going to do the same in the brows, just a couple. And then finally, super light just on the waterline, just to kind of separate the waterline from the lashes, and then also to separate like the inside of the eye from like the outside-ish area. I'm pretty happy with it at this point. We're going to go ahead and seal it, and then we can do gloss and all of that. All right, so now that we're here, it is just time for gloss and lashes. There's a bunch of different kinds of gloss you can use. I have a giant tub of this, so this is what I use until it either goes bad or goes off, or I run out, which I have used like half the bottle, so. But this is the Mod Podge Super Gloss. My one tip with it is apply it with kind of a paintbrush like this. Again, another Nick Pro round. This is a 6. But make sure you like put this in water right away, or your brush is donezo. Before gloss though, I'm going to apply lashes. Aleene's Tacky Gel, and I use the clear one. I used to use the white one, but it always left a residue, so I don't recommend that. Okay, she is quite small, so I'm not going to use any of my longer, fuller lashes. I'm going to pull out some of my smaller ones. For example, I like these kind of like little cluster lashes. Now, if you have a matching pair, that's ideal. I don't know where the other set of these went, or if I use the other set. I really don't know. I've had these for eons. For a small doll like this, I like to apply with a sewing pin. It's basically one of the only things that gets like a small enough amount of glue. If you're doing a fuller lash, you can use like, I'll use like a silicone sculpting tool. You can use anything really small like that. Don't apply it directly onto the doll because, number one, you're going to get it all over the doll. I'm just going to kind of dot this along the lid line. Not too thick, but not like nothing either. And I'm going to do both eyes at once because you do kind of have to wait for it to get a little tacky where the lashes don't stick. If you have tweezers, you can do that, but the tweezers just make me madder. All right, lashes are dry enough. I'm still going to try and avoid touching them, but we should be able to put the gloss on now. Make sure you wipe off any gobs. It is so much better to do a couple thin little coats to get the gloss you want than to gob it on. If you glob it on, it's going to look icky, so don't do that. I'm going to just touch a little extra into the corners of the eyes. Okay. And I'm going to leave that for a second. And I might gloss the lips a bit more, but I'm going to see how they dry down first. All right, so this is with that one coat of gloss. It's very light. I think I will put a little bit more on there, but not too much. I mean, you can put as much as you want. I don't think gloss really dictates how natural a face-up looks, especially because, I don't know, do we consider gloss makeup? But I guess it is, but you know, one more coat is not gonna hurt. And then just a little bit more on the eye corners. Okay, and then this is the final look with the gloss. We're going to put some eyes in her, and then we can get a real feel for how this turned out. And here she is with some eyes. You can definitely go lighter on the lashes or the gloss or anything if you like, but this is one way you can get a natural look for your BJD. Thank you so much for watching. If you're already subscribed, thanks so much for subscribing. If you're new here and like the content, I hope you consider subscribing. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day.